like they was like dumbfounded, and I loved that because I was in control. Welcome to another episode of Hard Lessons with Demel. I am your host, Demel. This episode, we will be talking about knowing your rights while you're in prison. The two previous episodes, I vehemently tried to tell you not to join the gang. You joined anyway. I told you the results of joining the gang, you got to put in some work. So you putting in work have led you to prison. Welcome. So, every institution, when I entered, the first institution I was taken to was Stateville Correctional Center. And during orientation, cause you gotta go through orientation and all that stuff. Like they give you a class on welcoming you to prison. It's crazy, but they give you an inmate manual. It's called the inmate handbook, and the inmate handbook basically it contains all the rules and regulations that you, as a prisoner, resident, a convict, whatever you would like to classify yourself as, must maintain or abide by. And other history about that particular institution is contained in that handbook. And opportunities that are available to you if you wish to take advantage of those opportunities. So when I first, I entered prison, I was 19. I didn't really understand the importance of learning the handbook, but throughout the duration of my imprisonment and being around certain men, I was able, they shared their experiences with me and told me that, your most valuable weapon is always going to be here. And, what you put in there will really define you while you are here. So, I really became passionate about learning my rights while I was in prison. We know that the 13th Amendment says slavery has been abolished unless, right? And prison is modern day slavery. I mean, they work you, they don't pay you nothing. You may make $1 a day, so it is modern day slavery in that regard. And it has become very economically beneficial to the American economy. You know what I mean? So that's why we has witnessed over the last 25 plus years the booming of prisons and private prisons, throughout this land. In Stateville had a mission statement. I remember it vaguely. I know it started, Stateville's Correctional Center's mission is to encourage and promote a climate of safe and secure conditions in which inmates and staff can develop positive attitudes and work programs, et cetera, something like that. I used to recite that to the COs, correction officers, when they wouldn't do their damn job. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, smart ass. And I liked it. I liked being able to reinforce their rules to them. I loved it. So the more I loved it, the more I would challenge myself to learn more, to eat more of the information. So, I believe every institution that you enter, it should have an inmate manual, which could also be interpreted as an inmate handbook. So I know, like, one time I went to go hear a ticket, an infraction that the officer said I committed, whether it be insolence, disobeying a direct order, dangerous disturbance, fighting, what have you. And I went up in there and I said, I object to this committee. And they was like, what? And I was like, The inmate manual 504.AB or something 80 says inmates can invoke their right to object to anybody on the committee that they feel lacks in impartiality and harbors resentment. And they was like they was like dumbfounded, you know, and I loved that because I was in control. You know, because when you're in prison, you're not in control of nothing. You don't control nothing you do. You don't control nothing. Seriously. So I was in control. So they still found me guilty on the infraction, but later on, I was able to beat that infraction by way of filing a grievance. You know, the grievance process in prison is your most valuable weapon. The grievance is your most valuable weapon, not these. The grievance, that piece of paper that is available to every prisoner in every institution throughout America, is your most valuable weapon. Utilize it. I was in an institution and I had filed a grievance, and a counselor said I had hurled the threat in the grievance. So she wrote me a ticket for filing a grievance, essentially. So they sent me to segregation for, I think I did like 30 days in segregation. Well, while I was in segregation, I filed a grievance for them sending me to segregation for filing the grievance. And they denied it on the institutional level. When you file a grievance, it goes to your counselor. He or she denies it or agrees. They denied it. Then you go to the grievance officer. He or she denies or agrees. She denied it. And then you can go to the prisoner review board. Every state has a prisoner review board. Every state. So I went to the prisoner review board and they have the last say so. They agreed with me. They ruled in my favor and ordered the institution to expunge that infraction from my master files. Man, I was so happy, man. Man, I was so happy because I had been in the penitentiary like 9 years. You know what I mean? Like I went to the penitentiary in 1999, and in 2008 I had, you know, my public defender had filed some, you know, the stuff she was filing, my direct appeal. I got back. I was able to reduce I got a time reduction because of what she did. From 99 to 2003, she was my attorney, my appellate defender, so she did do some good. My time went from 45 to 35. You know what I mean? And all throughout that process, like she bear witness, I was very like involved in some of the stuff she would put together. You know what I mean? I would tell her like, well, I read this case. You know, I read this case. Maybe you should look into this, look into that. And, you know, my time went from 45 years to 35. So I was like, man, I'm chunking at him. I'm going to get him. You know, I'm going to get him. You know what I'm saying? So I filed a post-conviction on my behalf. I lost. They dismissed it. You know, she said it was, she dismissed it based on, she said it was frivolous and patently without merit. When I read that, I'm like, frivolous and patently without merit? I'm like, it's not. It is serious. You know, frivolous means it's not serious. You know, and I'm like, that is so disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like, this is my life. What is she? Like, she was so arrogant as a judge. Like, she said my document was frivolous and patently without merit, and that fired something up in me. You know, something up in me. When I got that decision back, I was fired up. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep learning this stuff. Frivolous and patently without merit. Somebody go say the opposite, you know, and the judge did, you know what I mean? 6 years after her decision, he writted me back to court. And I went on like 9 court writs. I was representing myself. And I used to come up in the courtroom in shackles. You know what I'm saying? I come up in the courtroom, you know what I mean? Literally in shackles. I either have, sometimes I hold my briefcase. I had like a a little joint type of briefcase. I think I got it. I'll show you guys on the next one. I think I still got it, or I don't, or it told when I first got out. But I have my little lawyer briefcase. You know, I was 28. I knew the law, and I'd be shackled. You know what I'm saying? But I learned the law. I learned my rights. You know what I'm saying? And I filed lawsuits on institutions. Y'all can Google those. Hannah versus Vincent. You know, I took them to court. We picked a jury. I was sitting at the desk like, y'all gonna stop doing what y'all doing to people, because you know we see what they doing to the brothers in Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? They abuse us in that, man. They mistreat us. You know what I mean? And we know we have done wrong. You know, we know I didn't, but you know that's for another time. I get into that, but we know I wasn't a saint either. Let me say that. I wasn't a saint either. You know, but we know we have done wrong, man. But the mistreatment that we receive in there is like crazy. You know, it's crazy. So, you know, I know you've made a stupid decision to join the gang, and you've put in work, but you know, learn your rights. If you're in prison, or you know somebody in prison, tell them go to the law library. You know what I mean? Tell them go to the law library, because knowing your rights in prison to keep you alive. You know, it will keep you alive for real, for real. Knowing your rights in prison will keep you alive. You know, and it did for me, you know, because I was able to, you know, I got myself back in court, you know, just using that. I took an institution to court just using that. You know what I mean? So this was information that I had absorbed by way of just talking to guys, man, different individuals, you know, really just pushing me. Learn your rights, boy. Don't be another stupid prisoner. You know what I mean? What you want to just be a stupid ass prisoner? So I learned my rights, man, you know, when I was in prison, man, and it's imperative to learn your rights, because I think if I wouldn't have had learned, you know, the law and just the rights and things that I'm still entitled to, why I am you know, a detainee or a resident or a convict or a prisoner, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? You still got rights. So I'm glad I learned my rights, man, and I encourage y'all. Peace. And this why it is imperative to know your rights, because when I learned my rights and I learned the Constitution in its entirety, you know, not to